welcome to Scientific News Break. Today we'll have a look at what an aquatic ecosystem is like and an example food web for this ecosystem. But first, we will look at the mystery we like to call Mystery of Let's get to it. The summary of the bighorn sheep story starts in summer when wildlife biologists estimated the population of the sheep was about 250, around that. This was the largest herd that they'd had in years. When the winter months arrived though, the herd dramatically decreased until by the end of winter there were only 48 bighorn sheep left. What happened? Like, even I'm confused here. I'm never confused. This has never happened before, and it's a mystery that we need to solve together. It's Mystery of Okay, why do we call it that? Because honestly, it hasn't. Anyway, a group of scientists, my science class, have found some clues that will help us look deeper into how these sheep were killed. Now let's go to forensic scientist Jess for more. Thank you, News Jess. This is where the mystery of the case came down or happened or whatever, and we have some clues about how they died. The clues are: Number 1. All bighorn sheep had pneumonic-causing bacteria. Number 2. The bighorn sheep ate land snails by mistake when grazing. These snails contain lungworms which travelled from the stomach to the lungs of an animal. Number 3. The lungworms ate open sores through the bighorn's lungs. There were many other clues, but these are the main ones. I will include the other clues as we go through the story. That's it, I'm going inside. Oh, it's so nice and warm in here. Anyway, so during the winter months, the bighorn sheep would travel down the mountains out there, which, as I said before, are extremely cold, and into the valleys and canyons to find grazing spots. Travelling through the snow was hard work for the sheep, and they were constantly tired. When they would reach for some grass, they would graze and accidentally eat land snails. Now, in one of our clues, it said that the land snails contained lungworms? Yes, lungworms. Ew. So the bighorn sheep were eating them as well. Now, from there, the lungworms would work their way from the stomach and into the lungs of the bighorn sheep. They would then chew through the lungs and create open sores in them.
This isn't gruesome.
This is where it gets confusing though. The pneumonic bacteria inside the bighorn sheep, inside their lungs, I guess, spread to the open sores, and this made it easier for the bacteria to turn into a deadly disease. So the bighorns had pneumonia, and all of their travelling made it harder for them to breathe, so they eventually died, basically. Can we just take a moment for these bighorn sheep? Anyway, back to the story. But I hear you say, can't they just breed, and having more sheep will prevent endangerment? Well, yes, it would help to not cause endangerment in this species. But there's a catch. You see, the rams would fight each other to the death for the right to breed with the women, so that caused a lot of deaths as well. But not only that, but if the pregnant ewes had lungworms, they would travel to the fetus and kill the unborn kids. We have a moment for these unborn kids. dramatic decrease in the population of bighorns, especially the kids. Guess what time it is? It's question time!
Question time
with forensic scientist Jess. Question 1. How many bighorn sheep died between the summer and February the 5th? 202 sheep died that winter. What unusual wildlife behaviour could have been an early clue that something was wrong with the herd? There weren't many kids anymore. They all seemed tired, and they let humans unusually close during this time. Interesting. Why did so many of the herd die in such a short period of time, January through February 5th? The pneumonia was quickly spread through the herd by coughing all over each other. Ooh, another interesting clue here. Question 4. Why did the rams die earlier than the ewes? The rams would fight to the death to breed with the ewes. Question 5. Why were there only a few kids in December, though there were many in summer? The kids were dying before they were born because the lungworms travelled from the lungs to the fetus. Question 6. How do the bighorn sheep get lungworms, and what is the life cycle of the lungworm? The bighorn sheep eat the larva of the lungworm in the land snails. The larva then travels from the stomach to the lungs where it grows. It then chews through the lungs, creating open sores. It also lays eggs in the lungs. The lungworm goes back to the stomach and is excreted, leaving its eggs behind to be excreted later. Question 7. Why don't all bighorn sheep die of pneumonia and lungworm? As mentioned earlier, the rams would die fighting each other. 8. Question 8. What is the relationship between the pneumonic bacteria and the lungworm? The lungworm created open sores for the pneumonic bacteria to grow on and create a deadly disease. Who or what caused the die-off of the bighorns? The final cause of the die-off of the bighorn sheep was pneumonia/lungworms. How could we prevent a die-off like this in the future, and how much would it cost? In the winter, cattle are herded into pest-free paddocks and barns, whereas sheep are left to roam. A good management plan to prevent the die-off of the bighorns should be that they have their own paddock or barn, which is sprayed for bugs and checked often by a farmer willing to take care of them. This would only have to be for winter months, and it would mean the bighorns would not die off in the future because with no open sores in the lungs caused by the lungworms, the pneumonic bacteria can't hurt them. This would cost a fair bit of money, as you would need someone willing enough to stay with them over the winter months. From this one plan, you can have many different practices from it. They are putting sheep in a plain paddock, putting the sheep in a plain paddock and supervised by someone, putting the sheep in a pest-controlled paddock, putting the sheep in a pest-controlled paddock and supervised by someone. By listing all of these practices, we can see that the first practice is obviously the least expensive, as it requires the least amount of equipment and work. However, it is the least effective of all three practices, and the bighorns may still eat the lungworms and die. The best practice would be the last one because it covers most of the risks of why the bighorn sheep were dying, but it is the most expensive practice of the three. Privately owned land can affect this plan, as if the land where the bighorns need to stay is privately owned, then we wouldn't be able to build there, and we would either have to move the sheep or not go. Start again. Privately owned land can affect this plan, as if the land where the bighorns need to stay is privately owned, then we wouldn't be able to build there, and we would either have to move the sheep or not go through with the plan. The other citizens living in this area may also affect how the plan lays out, as the locals of the area may not want a sheep paddock next to their house, so their community has to decide whether or not they want it there or not. It would take a lot of time and research to fully understand and know how to better the situation here, but it would take hours upon hours of work just to research the different features and adaptations of the bighorn sheep, let alone the cost of things and how how we would get them.